We're now in server 06, and the difference here is we've still got our mutation, but we create an input type. Notice it's just called input and then a name, and it defines the shape of the input, whether things are mandatory, required or not. And if we look down at the query we're going to run, we run this, and notice we give the name to our mutation, and then use this custom variables here so that we can actually use the query value variable tab. So let's look at that in the playground. We can see it here. We've got just a query name here, add project, and if we take this out and press command space, we will see that if we go $input and through space, we'll see that there's a create project input type, and it's good to name them as something input so it identifies them with the project. And the way we wire it up together is whatever name we're using as our custom variable, we must put a $sign in front of it, and these two wire together, which means that we can pass in a variable here by doing this. So we've got this case here. If we take this out and do press control space, we can see straight away it knows about it. It knows there's an input of create project input type, and basically then we can go back and place in our object, which is just this here. So let's put this one in. There we go, and we'll make it test case. That's test case 4. If we run it, there we see it, and when we look at our resolver, we can see we're getting from the args the name, the completed status, and then we create a new project, push it on and return it back. And let's just see if we can spread out .args input. So let's come in here and go ... And we can see what we could also do is spread out the args input variable, which has the name and the completed, using the spread operator with the ID number. And if we come back down here and go into our test case, let's just call this T5, make that false. We send that back, we can see it there with a random number, and in our case here we're serving out the project's name. Here we're returning it back what is being completed. So what we can see here now is this makes it a smoother way of adding a lot of different invariable types in, and also enables us to do the query value table. So if we look here in our clients, we can see we've got app project, same as before, app06. All this is doing this time here, as before with our queries, we're just creating an input variable here, hard coding it in, passing in the new project, and as we can see in the create project, it takes in, for example, here a new course. That's just a custom variable. We can change that to new project. Come down into here, and what we can basically sort of see here is it takes the input value of the new project, whatever's passed in, and basically it's the same query that we had before. We still need to use the query object type here, but the query itself is what we had in our playground. New project, create project here, passing that in, passing in the value, new project, new project. So let's go into the page and open that up. And there we can see that we get our object back. And if we refresh it, we should get a new random variable number. There we go, second new project. So if we come back in here into our actual file here and second new project, we'll just type here YouTube example, and we'll set that to true. So if we come back in here, that should refresh. YouTube example added, completed, set to straight, and we've turned back this object project created here. So that's the client example using it, and basically what we can do is we pass through new project that gets there. Obviously these are just query parameters, so they can be any name that we want. New project in here defines what we get down here. We're passing in the variables, input the new project, the same way that when we were doing our playground, we were doing our input and we're doing our input and variable name. So therefore this is how we have got our CRUD operations, because when we pass through these variables on the resolver side, Well, in the mutation we can do anything we want. We can add, we can delete, we can modify, and we can turn back a query. So this mutation is basically the rest of the CRUD for create, update and delete, and our queries are our reads. So now with all of this, we have now created a complete CRUD GraphQL API.